I think as a cloud security program or a cloud security team, your best friends are your application security team and your incident detection response team. I think there are two schools of thought, right? So I do think if you're running security in any company, either you make it everybody's problem or you make it your problem, right? I'll give you another example. I think only in the past year or so, we have seen a lot more data perimeter specific controls that are actually coming out, but they're still nuts and bolts. They're like IAM conditions. They're more like, hey, go add this condition to this, or go add this RCP into your environment, right?
Yeah.
But then why can't you create those? Why can't you suggest those parameters for me?
Welcome to the State of Cloud Security. Yes, you heard that. The State of Cloud Security from actual practitioners and leaders. This is the first of many that you'll come to across, where we talk about what they're seeing as trends, what they notice as things we should care about as leaders, what we should see in the industry in terms of people, process, technology, that things keep changing every day. And now with AI, what does that look like? All that and a lot more in this episode with Srinath Kuruvadi. I look forward to hearing about what you think about this episode and whether you want more of State of Cloud Security from leadership, from community, and perhaps another angle that we can cover for the State of Cloud Security. So at least this way, the face behind people who are filling out the service instead of an anonymous survey on the internet. I hope you enjoy this episode. As always, if you get value from this content and have been here for second, third time, definitely appreciate a follow or subscribe on the audio channels of Apple, Spotify. If you're watching this on video, YouTube, LinkedIn, I would appreciate subscribe and follow over there as well. I hope you enjoy the State of Cloud Security Leadership Edition, this time with Srinath Kuruvadi. Welcome to the State of Cloud Security, the Leadership Edition. Today I'm with Srinath. Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on to this first of many State of Cloud Security from actual practitioners is the theme. Could you tell us a bit about yourself first?
Thanks, Ashish, for having me. I'm Srinath Kuruvadi. I've been doing cloud security, actually security for about 2 decades now.
Nice.
And cloud security more recently in the past decade or so.
One of the things I want to start off with, because you have a lot of experience in cloud security, you're in leadership roles as well, I have found that a State of Cloud Security, sometimes it's hard to tell whether there's an actual leader on the other end or a person who probably doesn't have any experience that just happens to be on the internet when the survey ad came up. I want people to be able to walk away from how some of the leaders like you, me, and others think about the State of Cloud Security as it is in 2024. And I'll try and avoid talking about AI, but we'll see how far we go with it. My belief at the moment is that people process technology is where people, like all of us leaders, focus on that. Hey, is my talent great? Am I able to sustain the talent that I have? Then I have the technology challenges with cloud and cloud security. Because we've been in the space for a while, we'll probably start with technology first. What was cloud security like when you first started in this space? And how do you see that today in 2024? So at least people have some context of, okay, some people may agree, some people want to chime in, but I'm curious as to how have you seen the cloud security space change?
So I think the cloud security as a space has evolved a lot, right? When it started, it barely existed. Mm-hmm. It used to be more VM security or system security or more securing the sandbox environments.
Yep.
That's how it started. And then it has gotten a lot more mature over at least in the past 15 plus years.
Okay.
And a lot of it in the past 8 to 9 years, I would say. And that has come in on different angles. And we have borrowed from multiple areas of security itself, like application security, like incident detection and response. And then we have applied that in a cloud context. So I think still we are in a state that we are maturing, in my opinion, but we still think that the cloud service providers have given us a lot of nuts and bolts, and it is still a security program who need to use it in a more effective way so we can actually reduce meaningful risk to the business.
Yeah.
So, and that's where a crux of a big part of our cloud security engineering bandwidth goes in any organization that we are seeing.
I sometimes still have the same conversation that I had 10 years ago in cloud security. Are you still having those conversations as well?
Absolutely, yeah.
The reason I call that out is I think it's weird because I still walk into rooms and I'll have conversations with other CISOs who are moving to cloud in 2024. You've done this in the cloud security space and broadly as well. Where do you think people should focus on? I think what would you say people should consider having these things in their security program in 2024? Please don't say AI.
No, AI has a space, but I do think it's always been about fundamentals. Even now, even if you talk about areas outside cloud security, it's always been about the fundamentals. You talk about asset inventory, you talk about basic preventative controls, just talk about basic detective controls and be ready for that incident. So it's always been about the same things.
Yeah.
But again, it depends on your area and your areas of maturity and how much of a depth you need to go into depending on the complexity of your environment.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, I do think it's the basic elements applied in the cloud context, but we struggle at the basics because it's about where it stands in your priority of things in your security program. But there is no doubt cloud security as an area has gained a prominent place in any security program. It's not like a nice to have anymore. It's definitely a must have, given in all the breaches and given all the attacks, given all the unique challenges of the shared responsibility model that we actually run into. So we have to prioritize this in your security program. Barely there is any security program where I've seen at least one person or at least a team working on cloud security has been almost a given in any mature organization, or even a fairly mid to large enterprises is what we are seeing.
Even though cloud security has gotten itself a prominent spot, which I think 10 plus years ago, no one wanted to even have that as a line item. Now that
it should be more merged with application security. Like now there is like cloud security and infrastructure security has its own place.
But do you feel, because the promised land is that AppSec and CloudSec should combine and become product security. Do you find that in the conversations you have and in the maturity cycle of this 10 plus year journey that people have had, is that still where we are going, you reckon?
I do think we need to bring context from the application into the cloud world and from the cloud world into the application security world. It's all about that context so that we can enrich our controls based on those pieces of context. I'm not sure if you're going to merge them both as disciplines, but I do see that they can benefit each other. You need to be more informed. In fact, I think as a cloud security program or a cloud security team, your best friends are your application security team and your incident detection response team. Like you have to see hand in hand with everything that you're actually putting in place.
Talking about best friends, stakeholder management is a big thing as well. In our leadership roles as well. Do you find that the stakeholder side of things as well, are they more informed about cloud security? Because I think the initial challenge used to be security itself did not consider cloud security as a thing. Now, at least it is a thing. Now, talking to other people in the organization, say, hey, we want a vulnerability resolved in whatever, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, pick your cloud service provider, or maybe all of them together. Do you find that stakeholders a lot more informed or on board, or is there still a journey to be had in terms of educating them about it? Or is it more that the challenge is a lot more complex? And it's not easy as I'm just going to click this button and it's resolved.
I think there are two schools of thought, right? So I do think if you're running security in any company, either you make it everybody's problem or you make it your problem. So depending on your bandwidth, depending on your resourcing, depending on your budget, right? Either you hire a bunch of Kubernetes security experts and then make it their problem so nobody else worries about it. Or you make it a shared responsibility and so your business or your stakeholders, hey, security along with quality, along with reliability, along with resilience, everything, this is another thing you need to care about. So it depends on where, and then I think the most successful security programs I've seen are those where you have well-defined shared responsibility, whereas who is actually going to reduce risks. And once that is clear, it becomes easier.
Where do people draw the line for cloud security operation, application security? Vulnerability management. There is like this pockets of best friend that we have in the organization. So, but there's always a confusion. I was talking to the CISO, they were trying to figure out that, hey, shouldn't cloud security alerts go to vulnerability management? And then there was another school of thought, but shouldn't cloud security alerts go to the SOC team? Because it could be a potential incident. But then you don't want to wake up a SOC team person at 3 a.m. because the public S3 bucket versus hey, there's an IP address open the incident. Like they would not know the context difference. Where do you find the boundaries being drawn for cloud security? What are people doing in the cloud security?
At the risk of having worked for about 8 or so companies now, I don't like to be opinionated, but I think this is one of the things which I've seen time and again work very well. Is like you need to have a general triage team, for any alerts that comes in. That's your triage one, or first line of triage.
Level one.
And the second line is where you bring the subject matter experts. Like that's where the cloud security team can contribute, application security team can contribute, depending on what the alert we are talking about. And I think the best use of our cloud security engineering bandwidth is to focus on classes of problems, as opposed to single problem, like chasing down every single thing. If you work on building the security defaults or paved paths or whatever you call it, then you can actually have one person work on one thing and then make this entire class of problems go away for the organization, as opposed to having these subject matter experts being pulled into one-on-one for every single alert, every single finding that actually comes in. That's generally, I've seen it working well. The only exception being incidents. If there is a big incident like Log4j, whatever, then everybody needs to have all hands on deck, and then you come together.
Oh, so it's more like, to your point, because I think incidents are, as in public incidents, not because if you look at a CSP or a CNN, everything is an incident. It's like a big wall of red. It's like, oh shit, like, am I, there's fire every day, 10,000 of them. So I think when you say incident, you're referring to publicly known incidents.
Or maybe your customer data is in trouble, or you have reason to believe that there was a data leak. Or do you have a reason to believe that there was a Bitcoin miner in your environment? Or there's a malware that we found in your environment. Like those are the kind of things which I would actually call them as incidents, which has some real business impact.
You're almost saying that level 1 SOC teams probably should be the ones triaging. But then we are in this, which is I guess the next part, the talent part as well.
Right.
Because they technically have never, I think as much as I would like to sit here and talk about that, hey, cloud security should be easy, they have been, like this, when I say the security operation teams have been amazing at doing level 1, level 2, 3, 4 data centers. As much as they might like to think it's just another environment.
Right.
I don't need to know anything and Gen AI can solve my problem. Do you find that there is a knowledge gap that people have not seen in terms of the SOC teams being equipped with the right knowledge to even, that example that I used earlier about S3 bucket versus an open IP or IP address on the internet?
Right.
They would not know the difference. For them, that sounds like an incident. I'm curious from your perspective, talent retention and even finding talent in this space is hard. It was hard in the beginning. Is it still hard now?
I would say so, but I do think there are certain, again, as a tier 2 subject matter expert for your organization, as a cloud security expert, it's up to you to help them help you. Okay. So if you set up runbooks, if you set up common playbooks where you can actually say that, hey, these are the kind of things where you can investigate yourself, then you're going to bother me less. So if you make that investment, then you can actually scale your team better, your bandwidth better.
Yeah.
So the SOC 1 teams or the tier 1 triage teams, they can essentially be more self-sufficient. That's one way to scale. But I do think, going back to your question around talent and how we are actually managing this particular space, a lot of the security or risk-based thinking translates over to the cloud as well. So I'm also a big fan of thoughtfully setting up teams where you actually bring a diversity of skills together in terms of junior, senior mix, in terms of AWS, Azure, GCP experience, right? So if you bring that kind of a rich, diverse set of folks together, then magic happens. And that's why as leaders, we spend a big part of our jobs in hiring and retaining, and at the same time, setting up structures and incentivize them and provide all the recognition they need to actually get great things done. And that's where you can actually build a stable team. If you build a team where there's a person leaving every other day, or every other month, or every other year, then you're not actually hunkering down and building some quality outcomes for the business.
We are hearing rumbles of Oracle Cloud and IBM Cloud being used everywhere as well.
So 5 different clouds?
Yeah, now it's not 3 anymore, 5 almost. How would you design a cloud security team? Do you need to have all cloud providers covered? Obviously, if you are an organization which has multi-cloud, do you need to have all of that covered across your board? But is that one person? Because I see a lot of times LinkedIn would have, I'm a multi-cloud expert. I'm going, wow. It's like saying, I can drive a left hand, right hand, and on top of the car as well.
It's like a full stack engineer. I can do everything.
Yeah. So is there like a full stack multi-cloud thing that you feel is a reality?
But I do think that it is, the way I think about it is there is a shared services that you need to always invest. Like shared services, essentially, let's talk about CSPM, right, as a capability. We can build CSPM as a shared service where you just throw in different clouds, but you get the same set of contracts for CSPM-like capabilities, right?
Yes.
So it is like invest once and throw it on multiple clouds, and it's the same set of capabilities that can actually work. But there's always going to be the last mile, which is going to be very different to the CSPs. And that is another place where you might have to bring the expertise. So it's almost like a shared service for that tackles multiple cloud challenges. And then there is a last mile set of capabilities that you can have to invest. So this is where you have to bring in a GCP engineer, an Azure engineer, or an AWS engineer who actually understands the specificities of the cloud and then build on top of the shared services so that you can get efficiencies by scale. At the end of the day, I'm a practitioner by heart, and I was an engineer. I used to write code. So I do like efficiencies wherever possible. Right? And I think this is a nice way for us to be thinking. Also, always, I mean, there's such a common problem. There is going to be a 4th cloud, 5th cloud, 10th cloud thrown at you. So be ready for it in terms of common set of capabilities, like must-have capabilities that you actually need to reduce risks.
Because I think, to your point, initially when you're starting to build a team, if you are already multi-cloud, at least have SMEs in each one of those teams.
But keep that layer light.
Yeah, okay.
The SMEs are light, but your shared service is going to be heavier.
Oh, okay. Actually, that's a good point. And the CSPM, whether it's a open S3 bucket or open blob storage or open...
Same.
Like it's same at the end of the day, but it's
Correct.
more like
That's
the context for it is, hey, someone else would know the deeper context for it, so they can go deeper into it.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. And to your point, level 1 kind of looks at the basic triage level.
Right.
From the shared service.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll give you another example. Right?
Yeah.
For example, Azure. Azure has something called Azure Policy Framework.
That's right.
Which does not exist in AWS and GCP. So it is a little bit easier for us to be doing preventative controls. So that's where the single person or a small slice or a small layer of Azure security expertise is going to bring that expertise and add that layer on top of your shared service.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of organizations that I've been talking to, working with, they have platform teams as well.
Right.
Because now they have this is what the Terraforms of the world have created. Now suddenly there's a lot of platform teams. No one's sysadmin anymore, unfortunately.
Right.
But the platform teams are building that to your point, shared capability across the board.
Right.
What does that paved path look like? And what I was going to share earlier was that a lot of people have gone down the path that I still have Ashish the AWS person, Ashish the JCP person, Ashish the Azure person, but I can't expect that all those 3 people to be the same person. Fatigue and all of that, but also the fact that if someone wants to go and leave and
Right.
they will need another person, like now you have
failure.
Yeah, now you already have 6 people already in the team. So I started with 3, now I'm sitting at 6 people just for a failover.
Sure.
And so one person will go on holiday. As we do that as well, the reality of leadership to expect that one team or one person knows all of it is probably unfair, and that's where share the services make sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where I'm a big fan of this platform concept,
Yeah.
right? You can actually build a platform for multiple clouds in a single place, right? In that way, you can bring consistency in the way we do controls, the way we do risks, and we can actually compare apples to apples. Where it says, okay, GCP risk here is comparable to the AWS risk here with this particular asset, with this type of data.
Yeah.
In that way, you can actually compare and right-size your investments, and also being able to build SLAs around what kind of vulnerabilities are more important.
Yeah.
I think that consistent layer is important, and platform is a great place.
Yeah.
And platform should do things like Terraform and opinionated modules and those kind of things, which actually reduce risk from misconfigurations.
Question on maturity as well, because I think in my mind, when I think of state of cloud security, obviously the people, process, technology, spoken on people and technology, but one thing we haven't spoken about is the strategic lens for what does that maturity look like? And maturity, not just in terms of where we are today, in terms of what the cloud service providers given us,
Right.
how our business objectives may be different.
Right.
Where the talent can be, like as much as we would like to hire everyone on the planet who's amazing, limited number of those, limited number of their availability, they might not be in the same city, all of that. Where do you see the maturity level go for cloud these days?
I do think in terms of capabilities, right? When I say, if you're ready for an incident, that's maturity level basic, right?
Yeah.
And when you go a little bit beyond that, then you actually look at hygiene in your environment, like vulnerabilities, what kind of misconfigurations exist, and are they like drop everything, work on it kind of vulnerabilities,
Yeah.
or are they mostly like maybe level 2, level 3, or V2, V3 from a maturity and from a criticality perspective, right?
Yeah.
So that would be like the next level. And the third thing would be like, as I said, the classes of problems, like where I essentially say, okay, I'm seeing this problem, I'm seeing this other problem, this other app also has the same problem. How can I put a compositing control that can actually make this entire problem go away, right? And this is where opinionated Terraform modules and those were going to come in. So I would say that would be the next layer. So organizations go through this, right? So if I'm a one-person security team, a very small team, I'm a head of security or security engineer, first hire, then I'm going to just focus on incident readiness.
Yeah.
I'm going to focus on, okay, how can I be prepared for that bad day?
Yeah.
And be aware of it and just build relationship with everybody. And then also make sure that I have some very basic MFAs kind of things like turned on so that I'm at least ready for bad stuff. The second thing I'm going to just go, okay, now I feel comfortable. Let's go to the next level and look at vulnerability management. Let's look at some of the basics around least privilege, some amount of like lateral movement problems that exist in our environment. And how can I address that in terms of like architecture, design, and principles, and also just throwing in controls that are more effective. And the third thing is I'm going to just go after a class of problems and put preventative controls in place, opinionated Terraform modules to do resource management in the cloud, right? So I'm going to go after that. So in that way, that's how I see the maturity actually grow.
Yeah.
And as an engineer, you could be anywhere depending on your organization. So it does not necessarily mean you could be capable of the opinionations or the most mature capabilities that you would like to see in cloud security.
Yeah.
But sometimes you could be working on like really basic like incident readiness, like I was talking about.
In terms of, you mentioned capability, the compute or the patterns or the themes you're seeing in the conversations you're having with the industry, Are there obvious patterns that are coming out? In a lot of the conversations, it's easy for us to dive into one problem quite deep without realizing the next wave coming. And the wave could be AI, the wave could not be AI. But I think in terms of what are you seeing is almost coming up more often in conversations in terms of technology within the cloud space. Even if it's AI, feel free to throw that a word. Even though we said we won't talk about AI, feel free to throw that a word.
Right.
But what are you seeing as themes across the board that would be, to your point, are here to stay?
Right.
And people either, if they have it in their security program today, may be adding it in the next year or so.
I can think of three things that actually comes to my mind. One is, I think we are only off late thinking about data security. I think a big part of your cloud security should be about data security. Like data exfiltration risk is the number one problem facing any public cloud provider, any cloud footprint, any cloud hosted data that exists. And I think we should be start taking that seriously. And for good or bad reason, this is getting all the attention, right? DSPM, and you can see the DLP and capabilities. But I think that we should not stop at those capabilities. We should actually use that to meaningfully reduce risk, right? So that is one thing that I'm seeing as a pattern that is coming up quite a bit. The second thing I'm actually seeing is a bit of an interest, but I really would love to see a lot more, is like prevention first mindset. So being able to say, like, how can I stop that problem from even happening? Instead of just this whack-a-mole chasing down problem after problem, right? And that is where I see a ton of energy going into prevention first mindset. How can I make sure all cloud assets are secure from start? They stay in that secure state, and then they get shut down in that secure state. And that is another pattern that I think there's a ton of energy that is going, but I also think there should be a lot more we could be doing. The third thing is a lot around a systematic approach to controls, I would say. So if I have two security engineers, I give them the same environment. They will go after with two different set of controls. Hey, I have this Friday morning, I come in, they go after two different things. Like, why is that inconsistency? Shouldn't they be going after the same risks for the same environment? No, it's because of their skills, their comfort level, and also they have preference. Like, instead, I would love for us to be thinking about, as a state of cloud security, how can we bring consistency around cloud security risks? If two people with two different skill sets, then given the same environment, they should go after the same risks. So in that way, we should be able to think about, okay, this is the most important risk, and this is what I'm going to be doing, irrespective of who is actually going to do it. Once we solve that, then we can throw AI at the problem, and AI is going to solve that problem for us instead of...
Because the data would be consistent. It's not changing. Okay. And what is something that cloud security providers are not talking about at the moment that they should be doing?
I think they should be giving more opinionations, in my opinion. So I think they should be a lot more opinionated. They should give us more secure from start principles. They're giving us a lot more of nuts and bolts, as I say, and we need to be putting them together. And that is the part which I think there is a lot more work to be done in that space.
Oh yeah, because to your point, the well-architected framework that came by all three cloud providers is the beginning of one of those.
Right.
Where now at least there is something to start with.
Right.
But then there isn't an industry-based standard or there's no specific framework. I can just use that from a cloud provider and just use that to build a whole program if you want to.
Absolutely. Right. I'll give you another example. Only in the past year or so, we have seen a lot more data perimeter specific controls that are actually coming out. But they're still nuts and bolts. They're like IAM conditions. They're more like, hey, go add this condition to this, or go add this RCP into your environment. But then why can't you create those? Why can't you suggest those parameters for me? Why can't you observe my traffic and then suggest parameters for me?
Sounds like Gen AI problem.
Exactly. In fact, I am actually very excited about one possibility that Gen AI might bring to us is personalizing recommendations based on my risks, my environment, my structure. And then my compensating controls. Given everything, feed that into a Gen AI system, and that essentially tells me, hey, here is where your risk exists, here's what you're missing. Wouldn't that be awesome?
It's funny, the flip side to all optimization, if it truly comes to futuration, would be, we'll be solving people problems after that. It's just the opinion of someone, I don't believe in MFA. Oh, great. So there's no Gen AI for that, unfortunately. So as much as we would find the perfect path, I generally feel, as humans have done, and I think there's a movie that came out, Don't Look Up. And I always think of that movie. Every time I think of, as much as I would like to think Gen AI is going to be that thing that tells us, hey, there's a meteor coming towards you right now. You need to do something about it. Someone would be in an opinion, would definitely go, nah, not good enough for me. I'm going to wait. I want to see what if it deflects. We truly don't know how Earth behaves. It just bounces back.
Isn't it similar to like when we used to hesitate putting our credit cards online?
Same. Or get into Uber.
Now it's commonplace.
Yeah.
Just give it some time. It's going to be common practice and it's going to take off.
That's right. What I'm hoping for. But where can people find you on the internet? They want to connect with you more about this as well.
I'm on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is the best way to reach me. I'm Srinath Kuruvadi there.
Awesome. I'll share the link in the comments as well. But thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Ashish.
I appreciate your state of cloud security information. We'll hope to share some more of this. Talk to you soon. Next episode. Thank you for listening or watching this episode of Cloud Security Podcast. We have been running for the past 5 years, so I'm sure we haven't covered everything cloud security yet. And if there's a particular cloud security topic that we can cover for you in an interview format on Cloud Security Podcast, or make a training video on tutorial on Cloud Security Bootcamp, definitely reach out to us on info@cloudsecuritypodcast.tv. By the way, if you're interested in AI and cybersecurity, as many cybersecurity leaders are, you might be interested in our sister AI cybersecurity podcast, which I run with former CSO of Robinhood, Caleb Seamer, where we talk about everything AI and cybersecurity. How can organizations deal with cybersecurity on AI systems, AI platforms, whatever AI has to bring next as an evolution of ChatGPT and everything else continues. If you have any other suggestions, definitely drop them on info@cloudsecuritypodcast.tv. I'll drop that in the description and the show notes as well, so you can reach out to us easily. Otherwise, I will see you in the next episode. Peace.